Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, welcome to another special episode of Herschel Talkers. Didn't think we'd make it here, but it is less than a week before Georgia starts the season. Got Big Sean joining us again. We made it through the quarantine, made it through the pandemic, coronavirus, COVID-19, Wuhan virus, whatever you call it, Chinese virus. How are we doing today, Sean? We made it.
Doing fantastic. Hopefully, be doing even better come game time Saturday.
Exactly. First off, how are you and the family, and how's everything during the quarantine? 'Cause this was first time we've had a show since February.
And we're fine. We were fortunate nobody's contracted it as far as we can tell. You know, and we're just adjusting to the quote unquote new normal. So, how about you on your end? How have things been?
Yeah, me being single, but I was good. But I actually just went home this past weekend, took two COVID tests, and everything was negative. So I got to see the family. First time since Christmas, actually. So it was good to see them.
Yeah, that is good.
Little nephew Hagen, shout out 3-0 Evans High School. Put the whooping on Harlem, 35-0. So it was good.
That is good.
All right, first off, I know it's probably a little late news, but thoughts on the Big Ten jumping back in the race. Last year, originally they canceled, August 11th, and the Pac-10 canceled. They're going to do 8 games, so little small window. They can't get a game, canceled because of having a bunch of cases. But what's your thoughts on the Big Ten?
I think probably like a lot of SEC fans, I'm a little bit conflicted about it. First of all, I'm very happy for the Big Ten fans and players that they'll get to have some semblance of season. I know it was they're rather vocal in Big Ten land about being able to play, and certainly Ohio State and former Georgia quarterback, current Ohio State quarterback Justin Fields was, very vocal and adamant about playing. He was, I think, even sent around a petition for everyone to sign. So on that end, I'm happy for them. That said, I was a little less than happy when I saw their current schedule released, which, again, I don't really know, after cooling down a little bit, how much stock you put in, the quality of the schedule. It doesn't look like Ohio State plays anybody that's ranked, but I don't know if they're not playing any ranked teams because, the current top 25 doesn't factor in the Big Ten and Pac-12, or if those teams wouldn't have been unranked anyway. I guess they probably would have played a relatively decent schedule. I imagine that, Penn State would have been ranked and probably Michigan as well.
Michigan State, I think, probably. Yeah.
Yeah, although Michigan State kind of had a bad year last year, if memory serves me correctly.
Yeah.
But I think more immediately, I think the concern becomes as a Georgia fan, and again, you don't want to overlook anybody over the season, but it certainly makes our pathway to the playoffs harder, having an Ohio State in there. But, that said,
makes it more legitimate, though, because they would have said, hey, they didn't.
Correct. Correct. And if what we've seen so far is a barometer of what you're getting out of the Big 12, they might get left out of the playoffs altogether, as bad as they've played so far.
Yeah, Oklahoma, though. Oklahoma, normal names. Oklahoma and Texas, they play early.
Yeah. But, again, it remains to be seen, I guess.
Right.
That's putting the cart way before the horse. So.
Exactly. Another thing is, how about the most recent rules with Big Ten recruiting? Not Big Ten, I'm sorry, just recruiting in general, having no more visits. What's your thoughts on that?
I think it is what it is. It makes, in some ways, it makes some sense. Some ways it doesn't. If you're going to have people in the stadiums anyway, what are they going to be, like 30% full or something like that? Because they're going to have fans. Right. So I don't really understand why, as long as you maintain social distancing, why you'd completely, mitigate or remove recruits altogether. I understand that having too many people is a safety concern potentially, but I almost wonder if that's in part protection for, or some level of, I guess, not compensation, but I guess remediation that's given to the Pac-10 because they're not playing any games.
Right.
But, obviously, if you can social distance fans, you got to be able to social distance recruits and have them on campus. So I don't really quite know that I agree with it. But, again, I'm wrong plenty of times. And I change my mind plenty of times as well once I get additional information provided to me. But just off the cuff, it doesn't really seem like it makes a whole lot of sense.
Yeah,
I mean, either it's a danger at large for the public to be at these stadiums or it's not. I don't really get what the difference is if they're, football recruits or not.
Right. Yeah, I think it's going to really affect Georgia's recruiting class. I know you've been a little harsh on Kirby. I know everybody had to deal with it, but crazy year. So hopefully they finish strong. They got a lot of 5-stars we're looking at. I think they're number 11 currently.
Yeah, something like that.
All right, jumping right into it, we're going to look at the first off the depth chart for the 2020 Georgia depth chart. First off, I believe it's been 3 weeks now, 2 weeks. Big news: Jamie Newman opts out for the 2020 season. So I guess he's going to put his foot in the NFL combine and NFL draft stock. But good for him. But looks like Dwan Mathis might get a look starting at Arkansas. Dwan Mathis coming off the brain tumor, can't help but pull for the kid. Was he 6'6", 205 out of Michigan? Flipped him at the very end. He's going to go to Ohio State. And it looks like he's battling off against JT Daniels, who I believe in May he transferred from USC. So that's the big news so far. So what's your thoughts? First off, who do you think is going to start Saturday against Arkansas? Who's taking that first snap, I think, Sean?
I mean, to me, there's not much mystery to it. It's going to be Dwan Mathis.
Mm-hmm.
And hopefully most of our listeners have paid attention to Georgia and know that, Dwan Mathis last year had a pretty scary incident health-wise where he had, I guess, a brain tumor that had to be surgically removed. And going into the spring, I think if you were to take a betting poll, I think the vast majority of people would have been picking Dwan Mathis to be somebody who was going to potentially transfer with, Jamie Newman coming in, JT Daniels coming in, Carson Beck coming in, and then, with Brock Vandegrift on board for next year. And, for him to kind of at this point really kind of grab the reins and looking like he's probably going to be the starting quarterback against Arkansas. It's a great story, and hopefully he, is successful and productive for us and all of that stuff. But that aside, it's hard not to pull for the kid and be happy for him, regardless of whether he goes 10 for 30, with a couple of picks or not. You got to tip your cap to the kid just for getting to this point. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So I know there's been a lot of criticism, like Georgia after last, 3 years with Jake Fromm. He was that kind of vanilla, just pro-style quarterback. Do you think this is going to change the program for Georgia going forward? If Dwan Mathis is successful, we're going to look for more dual-threat quarterbacks. And Georgia fans, it's been 40 years. The defense has been there. It's always been the offense recently. And to be that upper echelon, play with the Ohio State, the Clemson's, the Alabamas, you're going to need that 30, 40 points a game. Just the way the offenses are these days, it's just hard to hold them to an elite offense to, 20, 28 points. Do you think this is a good move? We got Todd Monken coming in, who you're really high on. But then you got JT Daniels is kind of like that vanilla, to quote our boy Uncle Lou, vanilla Jake Fromm 2.0 drop back passer. So do you think it's going to be good for Georgia that we're kind of switching it up with a dual threat quarterback?
I mean, it could be, right? I mean, it seemed like we were going to have a dual threat quarterback with Jamie Newman initially. Obviously, he's elected to opt out probably because Dwan Mathis, proved to be the better player. I mean, obviously, yeah, right? I mean, the thing is whether you have a dual threat quarterback or whether you have a quote-unquote vanilla quarterback, to me it's a little bit overrated, right? Because it comes down to whether or not you're able to effectively run the ball and pass the ball. And I think that if you have balance offensively from that standpoint, then, whether you've got a guy who's, able to pick up 10 yards at a clip, 15 yards at a clip, or, whether he's what you'd call a statute or a vanilla quarterback, I think that diminishes some. But, having a dual threat quarterback comes with a lot of advantages. I think one of them being the fact that, you don't always necessarily have to have, 5-star, future first-round offensive tackles blocking for you. Especially if you're having a system where you've got 3 to 5 step drops and the ball is gone. They're just they're obviously harder to tackle. They're getting the ball out of their hands faster. And so, it's a lot easier of a system to build around when you've got a quarterback like that. If you've got a guy that's not as mobile, obviously you're going to need better offensive tackles to protect the blind side. And, you're going to need, I guess, weapons that can really you're going to need a legit running game as well, because a legit running back, I should say, because, if your quarterback's more vanilla, you're obviously not getting a running game from him necessarily. And as far as it necessarily being a change for this regime, maybe not. I mean, maybe for Kirby, it'll be a bit of a change. It's the first time he's really had it in his as a head coach. But for Georgia, I mean, we've had dual threat quarterbacks in the past. I mean, obviously you've got DJ Shockley, who played quite a bit during the early 2000s, and then even Aaron Murray, could move the ball when he had to. So it's just for this system, yeah. I mean, for the Kirby regime, I should say, yeah, it's really the first time we've had one. But I think it does open up a lot of things, because if that quarterback can take off, it's kind of hard to stack the box, right?
Yeah, extend plays. One other question is, speaking to Todd Monken, do you think Kirby's going to give him the keys to drive the car like this is his offense, or do you still think it's going to be Kirby's got his hands in?
I do. I think Kirby trusts him enough. I mean, the thing is the reality is Monken probably knows more about football than Kirby does. He's certainly got more experience, to be completely honest with you, right? I mean, because the guy's been, he's older than Kirby, so he's obviously been in the coaching profession way longer. I mean, that whole theory or philosophy that Kirby was meddling in the offense, I mean, I think a lot of that's speculation. You've never heard, either James Coley or who was the offensive coordinator before Coley?
Jim Chaney.
Jim Chaney, either one of them saying that Kirby meddled with play calling or anything like that. I think Kirby's going to trust his guys to let them do what they're going to do. I mean, the thing is for Monken, this wasn't his only, opportunity, to take another coaching job, right? I mean, he had a pretty decent NFL resume, leading, James Winston, for crying out loud. I mean, and Tampa Bay passing offense for a couple of years there in Tampa Bay under Todd Monken's tutelage.
I just don't see the NFL in passing in 2018.
Correct. I just don't see Monken taking this job if he's going to be micromanaged by Kirby. And it's no disrespect to Kirby Smart or whatever, but I think that, I think Monken's kind of perfect for him, because I think he's somebody that Kirby's going to trust. I think he's somebody who probably maybe a bit unlike James Coley necessarily can actually voice his opinion and probably stand up to Kirby a bit, and he's got the resume to do so. If our listeners haven't had the opportunity to do so, I'd recommend they actually listen to Todd Monken's press conference. I learned a lot in terms of what you're looking at as far as having a successful offense. I think he quoted the stat that, a good offense would have about 10 plays of 20 yards or more, would probably put you, in the top 20s. And then if you got to the 14 number, you're probably top, 10 or so offensively on a game by game basis.
Mm-hmm.
So, to me, I think that's really exciting. As far as a lot of the criticisms too, and again, people could have this argument to liberal interface, I guess, going back to Fromm a little bit. I mean, people need to let that go. I mean, it was readily obvious he didn't really have much in the way in terms of quarterback coaching. He had a converted wide receiver coaches as quarterback coach the past 2 years. I mean, the kid showed incredible moxie. He's a true freshman, got into the national title game. you're really one play away from winning it, right? It just kind of is what it is. But at this stage of the game, Kirby's really kind of upgraded, I think, that quarterback coaching and put some serious, emphasis on it. And I think really all he had to do was look down at LSU. I mean, and saw that Coach O kind of went outside of his own comfort box, I think, to some extent. He got himself a couple of competent, offensive guys, and, they won the national title.
Joe Brady and Joe Burrow.
Yeah, and I guess to parlay that back into the question about the running quarterbacks, I think what's interesting is LSU actually, in terms of sacks given up, they were the worst in the SEC by like a substantial margin. I think they gave up 36 sacks last year, which was 3 times as many as Alabama gave up. And Alabama led the SEC. Georgia was just behind them with, I think, 2 more sacks given up. But it didn't matter, right? Because, Joe Brady, or rather Joe Burrow, was still able to move the sticks both, and extend drives with his legs. So, I mean, that's kind of what a mobile quarterback will do for you.
All right. It'll be interesting to see. Can't wait to see, who starts against Arkansas. But that's the big question. Going on down, looking at running back, looks like, obviously I believe Zamir is going to be your clear number 1, but it looks like James Cook has had a really good summer camp. Got Kenny McIntosh, Kendall Milton, and Dejon Edwards. Freshman is Kendall Milton and Dejon Edwards. So what's your thoughts on the running back group? And do you think it's going to be more like Dinkin and Duncan, or you think they're going to run twin tackles, or how do you think they're going to be used?
Well, I think Monken pretty much came out and has said that, he's going to – and I think that I believe it was Del McGee said it as well, that, that the offense is pretty much going to, do what the offensive players do well. And so obviously, yes, I think the running backs, Zamir White is going to be featured heavily in that, as is James Cook. I mean, outside of George Pickens, the wideout, I mean, the 2 names you've heard of guys that have consistently dominated in these practices and in these scrimmages have been Zamir White and James Cook. Mm-hmm. So, to me, that's a reflector that, they're probably going to, give them opportunities to, be successful and make plays for them. And that's between the tackles. They're certainly going to do that. If it's, running to the outside, they're going to do it.
Yeah, I'm really excited about Zamir. He's just gone through a whole lot with his 2 knee injuries. Can't hope to pull for the kid. James Cook, I know I've been waiting on him for 3 years. I feel like maybe he hadn't really got that opportunity. This will be his year. I think he bulked up a little bit from what I read, 10, 15 pounds. I'm really excited about Kendall Milton. And I think he's had a little bit of a hammy issue, but he's just long and lean and he's big. Heard good things about him. McIntosh surprised me with some runs last year. And as you call him, Dodge Ram Jr. He played in a tough league. Cole quit, but I've heard some good things about him. So I feel like, maybe not an elite running back group as per Georgia, but I feel like they're solid. And I feel like it's going to give us, what we need to hopefully do well,
Mm-hmm.
And then moving on, tight end. I know one of Sean's favorite offensive groups, but heard really good things about Trey McKinney. He blocks really well. He's physical, but he did have a little bit of a knee issue, and I think he had a knee surgery. He's going to be out maybe past the Arkansas game. So it looks like I think John Patrick's going to be ready this week to start. And then you got Darnell Washington, the monster, coming in, 5-star recruit. I think he's 6'7", like 270, 273. He needs to lose some weight. Hopefully he'll be ready. And you got Brett Sather and Rylan Gold. What's your thoughts on the tight ends?
I mean, it's a bit of an unknown. I mean, we've certainly heard good things in, summer camp about, Trey McKinney, like you said, although he's, dealing with an injury, not certain if he's going to play or not. I mean, beyond that, I think that, going to the first game of the year, they're going to have to kind of rely on the running backs and receivers probably to pick up some of the slack there.
Yeah. How do you think didn't you say I think Tom Monken, he likes to use his tight ends a lot? Do you think they'll be a big asset to the offense?
I mean, yeah, assuming that they're effective. I know that he used them quite a bit at Oklahoma State. I haven't watched enough of the stuff from Southern Miss to tell you or not, but assuming they're reliable pass catchers, yeah, I mean, he's going to use them.
Yeah, I think O.J. Howard had one of his best years with Tampa Bay, so um, that should be a good focus.
Yeah.
Moving on to the wideouts, I guess you got X receiver split in. You got Pickens, who's going to be beast. He's just going to be elite. Marcus Rosemy, Justin Robinson. I've heard good things about him. I think he's going by a different name, Marcus Rosemy, like Saint. Was it? He's taking a different last name. But I heard good things
Yeah.
about him. I think it's definitely going to be George Pickens. I could even see him getting double teamed or shift over in some of the zone. So you got to basically look for your solid number two. Dominic Blaylock, unfortunately, had a knee injury. He's out again. I believe he tore the same knee, which is unfortunate. Hate it for the kid because he played pretty well last year. But I've been hearing good things moving on. We got a Z receiver here. I've been hearing a lot of good things about Jermaine Burton.
Mm-hmm.
He's explosive. Now you got Matt Landers, looks the part, but he had some drops. I know a lot of Georgia fans are real skeptical about him, but I heard he had another good summer. We'll see if he's ready. I think he did catch a touchdown in the Sugar Bowl against Baylor, so that was great. Got Tommy Bush, Makia Tong, and Adrian Smith, who's a Blazer. I think he's like McCole Hardman. I think he's coming off another knee injury. He's going to be hopefully ready later in the year. You heard any more about these guys, or who do you think will be the solid number two?
It's interesting. It seems like the dark horse for it's really Jermaine Burton. Kind of the incumbent there would be Matt Landers. But it sounds like Jermaine Burton's actually beat him out or is in the process of beating him out. So, I think the one thing that Georgia's going to, want to have is, guys that are reliable with their hands, right? Reliable pass catching receivers. And so, the one thing we know about Landers, and again, not trying to bash the kid. I mean, he's a better football player than I'll ever be. But, he's suffered from the drops, right? So, if I think we're obviously going to play the best player available. And so if that's Jermaine Burton, God bless him, right?
Exactly. Moving on to the slot, Kyrus Jackson, I think he was injured last year, broke his hand or his arm or wrist, the Vanderbilt game. D-Rob, been waiting on him for a long time. This was last year, so he's got to show out. Looks like you got Burton playing there a little bit. Ladd McKinney,
McConkey.
Yeah, this could be like your Wes Welker, Edelman type receiver. Heard he's pretty quick, 3-star under the radar. Could slide him in there. I think this is D-Rob's year, Sean, or is it going to be more Kyrus Jackson in the slot?
Well, interestingly, I've heard one thing that's actually hurt D-Rob a little bit in camp is the fact that he is a father, and so I think that he had to be
D-Rob is?
isolated. Yeah, from what I heard. I don't know, take it from, don't take it as the gospel, but I had heard that he's a father, and so, he had to keep himself separated from some of the other groups.
Right.
So that may have hurt him some. But Kyrus Jackson sounds like he's done, really well. And I know that Munkins actually mentioned him several times, I think, in terms of, guys that have been, productive pass catchers. And, there's video out there from, the Twitter world of, him actually catching a pretty good sideline ball from DeJuan Mathis. So.
That's right. Yeah, speaking of that, do we know who the kick returner or the punt returners are going to be? It's usually one of these wideouts. Kind of rotate them in. I'm not sure.
Yeah, I don't either.
Yeah. Moving on to the offensive line, we got Matt Luke, new O-line coach. Great recruiter coming in from Ole Miss. Looks like Jamari Sawyer is going to be the man. I think Sean said they were going to move him over. It looks like Broderick Jones had a little bit of an injury. I think it was a scooter incident. He'll probably be in there. Save your trust. So you like Sawyer? I know he's a big 5-star coming in. It's time for him to shine. This is the blind side.
I mean, yeah, like I said, the thing is, I think if he's the best guy for that position, seems like he's dropped some weight. He seems incredibly mature as well. When he spoke at media day or whatever, very composed young man. But again, like I said, not to necessarily, beat a broken drum here, but you don't need him necessarily to be, with a mobile quarterback, like we're going to go with Dwan Mathis, you don't need him to be Andrew Thomas, right? You can just sit there and, block a guy for, days, so to speak, on a single play. He just has to block him long enough, right?
Right.
So, but, obviously he's, really kind of cemented himself, at that tackle spot. He dropped some weight. And again, as long as he's effective, yeah, let's go for it.
That's good. Then moving on, left guard looks like Justin Schaefer.
Yeah, I mean,
Probably.
yeah, I mean, and again, he's a senior, right? I mean, obviously he's been there a good bit of time. He hadn't really gotten much in terms of playing time prior to this, I don't believe. I mean, other than maybe, spare duty. The only thing I remember about him from last year was when he got a holding penalty in the Notre Dame game. But, other than that, I mean, there's a wealth of talent on our offensive line, right?
Right.
So, I mean, with any of these guys, if they're getting the starting nod, I mean, it's not just like they're the only guy out there. I mean, they're beating out some, quality talent there.
Clay Webb, he's a really big, regarded 5-star coming in. Do you think he might be a center down the road, or do you think he's just kind of hadn't progressed? Remember, he's a big name coming in.
Well, I mean, he might be a center. I mean, I think Cedric Van Prine might have something to say about that as well. But I mean, he certainly could be. I mean, just time will tell. I mean, it looks like he's not even really getting. Doesn't even look like he's in consideration at center at this point. It looks like it's more of an offensive guard situation.
Yeah.
So wait and see, I guess.
Got Trey Hill center, which he's done pretty well in his third year already. You got Cedric Van Pran, maybe as a backup, Warren Erickson. I feel like they're pretty deep everywhere, deep offensive line. Maybe not huge names, but solid,
Yeah, I mean, it seems like they're deep, although it doesn't seem like they necessarily have a whole lot of experience, though, outside of maybe Trey Hill. And I guess Sawyer's had some experience probably, and Ben Cleveland as well. But, it seems like in other places they're rather green. It's kind of an interesting mix.
Yeah, looks like right guards, Ben Cleveland, Warren Erickson, Chad Lindbergh, freshman coming in. Hopefully got his
academics. That's interesting,
better.
too, if we can look at that, too. Notori Johnson last year, I think, was playing some defensive line, so he's gotten –
Yeah, it's almost like they don't know what to do with him, right?
Well, either that or – exactly. They don't know what to do with them, or – he's just not really been able to separate himself from the rest of the pack at, either offensive line or defensive line. It's just hard to tell. I mean, again, both of those are pretty deep areas.
And I think the surprise, this probably would have been one of the biggest things, coming in, biggest stories coming out of the, summer would be, except for the quarterback but quarterback dilemma. His right tackle sounds like Owen Conant came out of nowhere, 6'7", 315, and put his stamp down, and this is his right tackle spot. Beat out Warren McClendon, Tate Ratledge, maybe even Broderick Jones. So what's your thoughts on that? Sounds like a kid, a little banged up last year, but had a really good, summer camp.
Yeah, first of all, good for him if he can hold on to it. I mean, he's beaten out some, tough competition. I mean, time will tell with it, right? I mean, with any of these guys, time will tell. But you've got a couple of freshmen. And redshirt freshman offensive tackles there who, let's just wait and see. I mean, if he's able to solidify the line, great. But it may also be the fact that, like you mentioned, with Broderick Jones having the scooter accident and Tate Ratledge just, being a true freshman. But, that said, I mean, good for Owen Condon.
Oh, yeah, good for him. At Oklahoma, that was a Sam Pittman product. Great.
Yep.
So yeah, got a lot of questions coming in about the first game. So I'd say pretty much kind of worried about, hate to say maybe wide receivers and offensive line, of course QB. Actually, the whole offense is going to be question mark.
You literally had question marks across the board on offense. Yeah, you do.
It does. At first it was O-line and wide out, with the whole quarterback thing. Now it's all just a big old question mark. So going over to the defense, which should be elite. I mean, some of them's got it one of the best, probably in the Kirby Smart era. start out defensive tackle here. You got Devontae Wyatt, Jalen Carter, who I think is just the only time he's going to just take over. I heard he's the man, similar to what Warren Sapp coming out. I know Sean's excited about him. I am. This kid's supposed to be good, right? Good motor.
Oh yeah, I mean, yeah. From what you've heard, he's just beast. And there was some film that came out, and again, you want to be careful, right? Because there's plenty of guys in any sport that can be, I guess, practice warriors and then not really do much in the game. But I mean, Trey Hill's considered, a candidate, I guess, to be an all SEC center. And Jalen Carter just kind of almost put him on his ass. I mean, he certainly put him in a prayer position in a one-on-one drill. And so for a true freshman to be doing that against arguably the SEC's best centers, that's impressive.
Yeah. How about somebody mentioned the other day on 247 podcast, they called him Uncle Julian or Uncle Rochester. Seems like he's been there forever, right? Julian Rochester.
Yeah, he really does.
I mean, he's had some injuries, but he's pretty good when he's in there, right? He'll add some depth, right? Experience.
I mean, yeah, it's quality depth and it's experience. I mean, he's been there. I believe this is his 5th year, if I'm not mistaken. Right. And he's, I think, at various times started and then also been a part of the rotation. So there's leadership there, I think, for the younger guys, and there's also just an extra body for depth purposes. So I mean, yeah, I think having him's big.
Yeah, Bill Norton could have came in as like a poor man's J.J. Watt. Also had a little fun in the offseason, I bet. I think he got pulled over that one time. And that
wasn't that in like I think that was like in his first week or two on campus, right? Something crazy.
He got pulled over, man. He was going hard. I heard his alcohol number was a lot anyway. So. All right, you got nose tackle. Mom likes to call him Cookie Monster, Jordan Davis, who's a beast of a man.
Yeah.
He should be great. Hey, the way he said his slogan the other day, 2 on me, somebody's free. It's great.
That's right. Which I mean, he's been he's just been a huge blessing, I think, for that defense.
3-star at our local Charlotte here, Mallard Creek. So you got Jillian Rochester. I guess if you had a question, we'll get to the rest of it. If you had a maybe question mark, is maybe the depth at nose tackle. What do you think? Let's just say if there was an injury, that'll kind of hurt us.
Maybe. I mean, obviously, when not to look too far forward in the future, but yeah, losing Jordan Davis would hurt. You've obviously still got Rochester there, and then hopefully you start to actually get some reps to some of these other guys like Nazir Stackhouse, the true freshman, and Tyo Mitchell, and some of these other guys.
There's some good things about him. He's highly recruited, right? He's decent.
Yeah, 4-star. Yeah. So, obviously having those guys in there, obviously anybody loses Jordan Davis in the country, that's a big blow. But, you've got some other quality, you got some other players there that can help out and just give you depth.
Then moving along, we got defensive end, Malik Herring, Trayvon Walker, who's just beast. Great sack to end the game against Auburn last year. Tramel Wallflower, he's been there a while. So I think this might end up being Trey Walker's position, or I guess Malik's being there. I think they said he needed to maybe add a little bit more weight, but he's always been solid when he's in there, right?
Yeah, I mean, Malik Herring's a great defensive end, and he's actually the one that I think, tipped me off that DeJuan Mathis may end up having a legit shot at the starting quarterback position, because he even tweeted like DeJuan Mathis is fire, and some of the other guys tweeted saying he's been awesome or amazing or stuff along that line. But yeah, Malik Herring's been great. I mean, it seems like he's great at kind of just setting the edge, and it's and when you look at the fact that Trayvon Walker is right behind him and is just an amazing athlete himself. Mm-hmm. That defensive line as a whole, it seems like we've got a pretty good 2-deep rotation across the line.
Oh, yeah, pretty deep. Moving on to Jack linebacker. All these names are funny. Aziz, who's a beast last year. Nolan Smith, was it former #1 overall player coming in. Jermaine Johnson, who I heard had a really good offseason. He was a little banged up last year. He's bulked up some. Have you heard anything about Sherman? I know he's a big 5-star out of Texas. Good things about him. And Robert Bill, who seems like he's been around. Seems like they're pretty deep there at Jack linebacker.
Yeah, they are. I mean, yeah, Ojulari and Nolan Smith, that's about as good as a 1-2 punch you're going to get.
Yeah. Moving on to Sam. Got Jermaine. He's a JUCO transfer. He's been really good.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he needs to. I think he had some bright spots last year. Walter Grant, Adam Anderson. I know you've been waiting around for him. He's a good athlete.
Mm-hmm.
Sherman, who's a freshman. Moving on to Mike linebacker, Monty Rice, Quay Walker, Trouble Davis, which I think he's a little banged up with a knee issue. Um,
Yeah.
Monty
I
Rice
mean,
has always been solid.
Monty
He's
Rice
not,
is obviously the leader back there.
you're waiting
Yeah,
on Quay.
and Quay
You feel like
Walker,
he might make
yeah,
an
Quay
impression.
Walker quietly, I thought was a very solid contributor for us last year. I expect that only to continue this year. Um, and that's probably the guy that replaces, Monty, once that he moves on in the NFL.
Yeah. Then you got Will linebacker. I think a lot of people expecting good things out of Kobe Dean. It might be his year to shine coming out. Maybe
Mm-hmm.
another Roquan. Channing Tindall, you like him when he's in there. He's physical. Nate McBride never kind of came to fruition. He's a DGD. Always been like I heard, really optimistic, but just I don't know. And Tresman Marshall. But I feel like this is a good 1-2 punch to Kobe Dean and Channing Tindall, right?
Yeah, and kind of the thing with Channing Tindall is that his time here, it seems like he's always been a bit of a sack artist as well. Like he's it seems like he's got kind of an innate ability to be able to rush the quarterback and
Right.
put him on his ass, to be completely honest. But
Right.
yeah, that's a great 1-2 punch.
Yeah, moving on to the secondary, he's got star nickel. Looks like Tyreek Stevenson. A lot of people waiting on him. I think he had a pretty good bowl game. Mark Webb, who's a senior, and William Poole.
Yeah, I mean, that's just a great group of, at that position. It's not much more you really need to say about it. I mean, Tyree Stevens, I thought, had a great freshman year. Kind of similar to Nolan Smith, Trevon Walker, and N'Kobe Dean. And so just more to, just, another great performance and, expect to only see more going forward.
Yeah, it looks like, Devad Wilson, when he transferred, and then the Kyler Ringo injury, they're a little – I mean, they got depth there, but I guess only got 3 guys over there, so hopefully no injuries.
Yeah.
Got right corner Tyson Campbell, who seems like he's always a little banged up, and then, DJ Daniel did well when he came in to spell for him. And you got I've been hearing some good things about Jalen Kimber and then Amir Speed. Pretty deep there, right corner.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, cornerbacks, again, depth's not really seemingly an issue this year.
Right. And you got left cornerback Eric Stokes, who's a great lockdown guy, Jalen Kimber. Who would you say, moving on, we got, of course, Richard LeCount coming in senior year, Chris Smith, heard good things about Major Burns. Who would you say is their lockdown corner, like if you had their number one receiver? Do you think it'd be good to put on maybe Stokes?
To me, yeah, it's probably Stokes. And then, although you just don't know, I mean, Tyson, it depends on what Tyson Campbell can do. I quietly expect him actually to have a pretty good year.
Yeah,
he's certainly a great athlete. But yeah, I mean, I think in terms of consistency in big game production, you're looking at Stokes.
Yeah, and then last but not least, we got about it strong safety. You got Lewis Seen, who I heard played really good in the bowl game. I heard he's a headhunter. Heard he's impressive.
Yeah, I've heard he's been laying some licks out in the summer ball as well,
Yeah.
fall camp, whatever it is they call it.
Oh, yeah. So, yeah, I mean, this should be definitely an elite, strongest position group of the team should be defense. They're expecting a lot of great things.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. It seems like there really aren't much in the way of question marks on defense. Seems like you got,
If I question one just a little light there, I'd say nose tackle. Just if he goes down, that'll be a blow. He got, I don't know, Jordan Davis, I don't know, just because he's so big. And then Julian Davis.
Julian Rochester.
Yeah, he's been there for so long. So, I mean, we'll see.
Yeah.
Moving along, we'll do a schedule breakdown. Finally, we're here actually Saturday. So it's 10 games, all SEC games, of course, different. I feel like this is a good, hate to say warm-up game, tune-up game. And then I know you've been kind of guessing, but I feel like it's been top-heavy Auburn's going to be tough. Tennessee's physical. We should beat them. Alabama, Kentucky. I mean, you're looking at possibly two top, the next 4 games, actually 5 games, could be top 25 teams. And then on the back end, it gets a little light. So if we can get past this gauntlet, what games are you worried about? And I'll tell you mine out of the 10. Any
To me, the one I'm too worried about are the 2 Alabama teams, Auburn and then Alabama. Auburn, I think maybe we've got a little bit of
they lost a lot too, I think.
Yeah, especially on defense, but they've got a pretty good offensive coordinator that just came in. They've also got correct, and then they've got Dylan Nix there, freshman quarterback, and then they brought in Tank Bigsby at running back. So to me, that could be one where they could potentially come up and show out, especially if our offense is still kind of struggling to move the ball. That could be one where they're dangerous for us. But that said, our defense is about as good as you're going to find outside of Clemson, South Carolina. So, I think that defense will probably keep us in good games. And obviously, Alabama is the one that, to me, I think worries me more than any of the others, just because it's Alabama. They've got a ton of talent. It's at Tuscaloosa, and that's kind of the one hump we haven't been able to get over.
Yeah, I'd say the 3 that I'm worried about, there's 3 are the swing games. This one, because it's really weird, it's the second game. We could be catching them early, which is good. We have owned them. I think we've beaten them 12 out of 15 years. And a question on that one is Gus Bus. Does he let Chad Morris? He's let him call the plays, or is it more of it's still Gus Bus has his hands in it?
Sure. Yeah, that's a fair point.
And then, as Georgia, we turned the ball over 4 times and had a really bad upset against South Carolina last year. There's always that question mark. But the 3 that I'm nervous about would be Auburn, of course, Alabama, who I think we lose to. And then this one, they're the darlings of the SEC, even though we think Kirby is in Dan Mullen's head. And if he beats them again this year, I almost don't even want to hear Mullen and Gators anymore. Because everybody's excited about it. They got a lot of their guys coming back. You got Kyle Trask coming back. It is in Jacksonville. But if I had to do a pick, and you can give yours too, I'm going to say 9-1. And I hope we play these guys close, and we're looking at a rematch.
In Atlanta.
Are you going to beat us again? Can Kirby get over the hump? Can actually an assistant coach finally beat Alabama? We've been so close. So gun to my head, 9-1. And a close loss to this one. You get past this bulk of the front of the schedule, I think we're rolling right here. Just stay on. What's your prediction? We'll say 9-1.
I mean, to me, they could be 9-1. They could go. They could honestly go 7-3. It really just depends on the quarterback production, right? I mean, in years past, we were kind of able to survive without much of a passing game because our offensive line was so good. But it seems like that offensive line is a bit of a work in progress. So, this team's going to kind of go as Juan Mathis goes. Hopefully he produces we need him to, and he can effectively throw the ball down the field and lead our offense, in which case I think we're in Atlanta for the SEC title game again. But if not, I mean, Alabama could easily beat us, Florida could easily beat us, and there's probably room for one other loss on that schedule too. It just kind of depends. I mean, as great as that defense is, you got to score points to win.
Exactly.
You may never lose, but you'll never win.
Exactly. And at the end of the day, Sean's key to victory: score more points than the other team.
The other team, exactly.
And then jump right real quick. We'll go over this real quick. I think it's early spreads, 25 points. They're in Fayetteville this weekend. Felipe Franks, oddly enough, coming over transferring. It's going to be Sam Pittman in Arkansas, who was 2-10 last year. Chad Morris got fired. Chad Morris is now the OC at Auburn, correct? Barry Odom, which is an interesting hire at DC, coming over from Missouri, the old coach. And then is it Kendall Briles? Which you like that hire, coming over as the OC. Is that his name?
Kendall Briles, yeah, our Briles kid. Yeah, I mean, I think it's got the potential. I mean, I think that give Sam Pittman credit. It seems like he put together a good offensive and defensive coordinator, although I'll say Kendall Briles didn't really show us a whole lot last year at Florida State.
Mm-hmm.
Odom, though, as defensive coordinator, I think should be pretty good. Should be good to see. You should see improvement there. This Arkansas team, this Arkansas team is still just, I think, a work in progress. But to me, in terms of whether or not we win by 25 points or not, it really just depends on what you get out of DeJuan Mathis. I mean, beating somebody by 25 points on the road, regardless of how bad that team was last year, is still tough,
If you have a good prediction, what would you say? What's a good score? We usually do that.
I mean, I don't know. Pull a number out of a hat, maybe. I mean, I guess you do have Zamir White and company. It just really depends on what you get out of DeJuan Mathis. Maybe it might be a 7-point win. To me, the key is all about. To me, it's all about the production we're going to get at quarterback.
All right, I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think they hang around maybe, got Mathis, maybe has some 3-and-outs, and then they get rolling. They get a late touchdown. It's going to be 38-10. Georgia running away, and I like it. I think all these games you've watched recently, everybody's come out a little flat. I mean, I think even Clemson struggled in the first half. The first game, they didn't cover against Wake, even though they were well in control of the first one. But I'm going to say 38-10. They cover 25. 31-38-10. I'm going to say 38-10.
Yeah.
And then it'll really get their feet wet, get them warmed up, because you got Auburn coming to town next week, and that's going to be tough. Physical game. So
that's true.
Any other games that you're looking forward to this weekend? It's actually the first of college football. Though I guess the SEC game that I think is going to be interesting, because I think both must wins, is what do you think? South Carolina against Tennessee. It's Tennessee on the road. I think it's -3, and actually Tennessee is ranked 16th, which is crazy.
Right. I kind of like Tennessee in the points.
I do.
I mean, to me,
Guantanamo, and you giving Jim Chaney, he usually, they said, has a good second year with his team.
Yeah, and, that was a team that won 8 games last year, and so they're bringing most of those guys back. South Carolina, I think, was already in a bit of a transition stage. Now it seems like their future quarterback, Helinski, is now not the starter. It's it's a grad transfer from Colorado State.
Colin Hill is one of Mike Bobo's boys transfers.
Yeah, and they're a big-time freshman running back that was coming in. South Carolina's is apparently gone for the season with an ACL injury, or knee injury, I should say, and is out. I think that was kind of somebody they needed to be able to step up and do something for him. I think Tennessee's got a good shot.
Yeah. All right, anything else you want to get off your chest? Any other questions here?
That's it.
Glad that we're back with another episode of Herschel Talkers. We'll have more. We're trying out this Zoom, so hopefully it looks a lot better than our audio problems of the previous years.
Thank y'all. Bye-bye now.
Hey, make sure and subscribe and like and give us any comments. We're on YouTube, Facebook, 247. I'm still
We're not
banned.
hard to find.
Hey, I'm still banned from dog rant.
So actually, if you guys would like to do a petition to
put Disney
get
dog
him
back.
unbanned, yeah.
Hey, if Sean was a true friend, he would go on as a Charlotte dog and ask for a petition, but he has not done that
yet. Trey, I don't think you're ready for it.
I know I'm not. I'm a lurker.
There you go.
All right, man. This is Herschel Talkers, and we're out.
See ya.